approach.
Okay.
And I know I heard you mention it in an interview when you were on the radio show, even when we talked about how you like your inspirations. You said Superman, Popeye, Stevie Wonder, and man, I tell you, like Mr. Rogers, LeVar Burton, like I had the same as you, but Popeye, Superman, that
Oh
stuff.
yes,
But
yes,
children's television growing up, 70s and 80s, that's all we had. I mean, we didn't have hundreds of tape channels and YouTube. It was like you got your three channels. If you had to sit and watch Jacques Cousteau or Mutual of Omaha, that's what you was watching. You know what I mean?
exactly, exactly.
So I wanted to kind of like take the music contents, like, hey, we're talking to the adults, and everything that I've been doing anyway is family friendly, all ages. But it's like, you know what? Let's kind of lean in a little bit. If people got their kids with them, they can kind of take something from our conversation. So yeah,
Oh
I'm really
sure.
looking forward to it.
Oh, absolutely. So am I.
The So let me jump right into it. The album, as I heard you promoting it, Love Curated, I was excited because just hearing you kind of describe it, and since it came out, I've done it like listening here and there, but I gave a dedicated like three good listens, like first track to last track in sequence, no interruptions. Like I like to do like one in the car, just hey, every time I get in, pick up where I left off. I did another one when I'm like doing chores, like especially when I'm washing dishes, like that's my alone time. And as
Yes.
I'm listening to it, I can kind of hear the story unfolding. And I know that when you're listening to music, an artist can have a particular theme or meaning. And then, of course, the fans and the listeners, we got all these theories about it. But it definitely sounds like you had a mission from beginning to end, right? With the theme of this.
Absolutely. So I liken the whole album to a museum exhibit. So it the first song on the album is Catered Affair. And so with Catered Affair, uh you're actually walking into the reception hall of the museum for an exhibit that evening. And each song is its own exhibit within the museum. And so from Unloose Your Love all the way to My Friend, it's its own little story arc within the album. And so the entire concept of the album is love curated. So we're looking at different aspects of love, um, not just relationship love, not just there's some positive, upbeat love. There's heartbreak. There's a little bit of humor. There's sensuality. There's the relationship to God. So different aspects of love are covered throughout and curated because I wanted to make it into a playlist essentially. So that's where the curated comes in. And so we're similar to songs in the Key of Life, how um, Stevie tried to cover all the different aspects of life. Which I think he did effortlessly. Um, but I wanted to cover love, different aspects of love. Sure, didn't cover just. I wanted to cover as many as I could, but I think we grasped a lot throughout the album. So that's what the album is about.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of knew, even like listening to all your music, I always kind of listen for, the tip of the cap to Stevie. And I think on this one, just looking at the track list, I didn't get the feeling that you were channeling Stevie until My Last Love. You know what I mean? It seems like that, I don't know, that one stood out to me the most. And it's kind of like in the middle. And it stops you. I don't know, you and the music just kind of stand out. You know what I mean? Like a real beautiful ballad. But I do love the fact, like you said, you're covering all those aspects. It's not just begging, for some time, love. It's not just okay, romantic. We got married, and covering all these different bases. Um,
Yeah.
were you writing everything, or I think did you have some help with writing some of the lyrics, some of the
So
songs?
two right. So two of the songs, as you mentioned, my last love and Full Circle were co-written with Terry Giddings. She's a phenomenal artist out of the DMV. I wanted to engage my listeners, and I solicited. I said, if you write, if you because I wanted to pay it forward. I wanted to give someone a chance, and I could have written other songs, but it's your music is to be shared, and um, not only from the listening standpoint, but from the creation standpoint as well. So I wanted to just engage my followers and let them be on the journey with me. And Terry, she raised her hand first, and so she put her name in the hat. And so my music, her lyrics, and I thought it turned out very beautiful.
That is beautiful. I love hearing stories like that. In fact, just a few weeks ago, I interviewed an artist and producer, and he's kind of building almost like a collective of artists, and he's trying to do the same thing. But one thing that we talked about, and I asked him as far as like it was his first time kind of producing and putting music out, and I just said, well, creatively, what is your biggest challenge? And he said, well, not being a full time, like living off of the income musician. He was like, money. You know what I mean? Like the ideas and creativity is limitless. The only thing that's holding me back is money and the budget. Is that the same thing for you? Is like if money was no object, you would just have everything you want out there?
Well, I try to live in the end. I try to live from the end rather. So, of course, I mean, we at the bottom line, we all want to get be compensated for our work. But I carry myself as an artist 24/7. Um, I still have a 9 to 5, but I look at it differently. I have a family, but um, it's funding my passion, my vision. So it's instead of it being just a job, it funds ultimately me going and buying equipment, doing what I need to do. So um, while I'm not paid like I would like to be, but I look at it differently where it just funds my life. So I look at it from a standpoint of it's something that I have to do to do what I want to do. Um, but it used to look at it as a stumbling block, but now it's because, of course, the goal is to travel and to tour and which I'm still doing. As I guess your nationally recording artists are, but now I just changed my perspective on it, and similar to our conversation earlier with the Popeye and Superman and Stevie Wonder, I was those characters for those hours. So why not apply that to my passion and what I really want to do as an artist now that I'm mature? Just live my life out as an artist, and the office work is what we have to do. So
That helps you survive, right? I think I do the
no,
same thing. It's like, yeah, if I could make content and not have to clock in and out, that'd be great. But, we got to pay the bills. So, yeah, when you look at it, when you flip it and just say, hey, wait a minute, this 9 to 5 is making it possible for me to pursue the dream or just have this creative outlet. And like you said, this is really your spirit, this is who you are to the core, then
right.
you don't mind going to work and putting up. Because otherwise, I think you can easily end up not happy, burnt out, quitting, and then you got to go find something else. Like it's a necessary evil at this moment. It's just necessary. It doesn't even be evil. It's just necessary at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And listening to this, well, number one, 16 tracks. Like, did you leave anything on the floor? Because I was surprised when I opened it up and I was like, oh, 'cause it's just not common. You know what I mean? Like, it's a huge throwback to what really, what albums used to be. Is like that was a lot of music in one album. Did you go into it with the goal, or did it grow over time?
It grew over time. And in fact, the entire album grew from a disappointment, rather. So, I was shooting earlier this year. We were singles heavy. We were just releasing singles every other month, close to every month. And I was going for a video shoot, and I wanted to invite a lot of people to come out, and for whatever reason, and I don't hold it against them. Life happens, but I got stood up, which left my Saturday open. And so I went back to the studio and started to record a song. I think the first song for the album that I recorded was track number 4, Nobody. If I'm not mistaken, it's Nobody. Nobody but you. And I like that song, and I'm like, okay, I did that one really quickly. Let me add another one. So first it was but from July until like early August, it was an EP. No big deal. Something I can put out maybe at the end of the year. Then it started to snowball. So now we have 7 to 8 songs. Um, and by the time we got to September, yeah, we had 16. And to answer your question, yes, we did leave some off of the album. And there are 3 other tracks that we left off. Um, And yeah, just I'm glad it happened the way that it did. Sometimes, you know, maybe if I didn't get stood up for that video shoot, this album wouldn't have happened. I mean, it may have just been a string of singles. So, but I'm glad where we landed. I'm glad we're, you know,
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's a different time, and I'm trying to um I guess I'm trying to live in both places. You don't want to be completely nostalgic and just like, oh, it was better back then, and I don't like the way it is now. I love being able to see an artist that I rock with, like you said, drop singles every other month or so, or just pop up with something. But then I like
right,
the albums too, you know what I mean? So I know that pre iTunes and post iTunes that, singles has become a thing. And it's just like, hey, this is the landscape that we're in. You just kind of have to just go with it. But every now
right,
and then you like to be able to have an album that you can sit with, especially one that isn't just a block of singles and you just, no, this one actually kind of tells a story. You can really sit with it. Um,
absolutely.
was it kind of hard sequencing the, the way you put the tracks on here?
It took some time. It took some time, and there were a couple of different iterations of this song order. Because I wanted it to make sense. I wanted to step outside of the music creation and look at it from the listener standpoint. Look at it just okay. You have. I'm looking at it from a music standpoint, and then I'm looking at it from more of a thematic standpoint. So with music, I want up tempo. I want to go up, 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 and then let's mellow out. Let's level out during the middle, and then we'll bring it back up, and then we'll have a nice send off. So I knew that was the flow. Now it's like which songs are going to support that, and so I knew Catered to Fair obviously was, and we have I believe three kind of interlude type songs. So they're not full songs, but they're still songs nonetheless that fill in. Um, and so, a couple of different, like I said, a couple of different iterations of the order, but maybe three or four times we went through that. Just me and some of the folks, the production people that were working, listening, my sounding board team, and we came up with something that made sense. That it would flow. So when you listen to it, you know, if you're, for me, a good Saturday, like you mentioned, you're in the car or, you're cleaning up, something that just makes sense that this doesn't take you on this up, down type of a pattern. And it's like you want to get emotional, but you got to stop being emotional so you can party on the next track, So,
And I felt it too because it was like, yeah, having just the headphones on and just listening without looking at anything else, it
yeah,
flowed. I never felt like, oh, where did we go? Where did this come from? You know what I mean? Or you're not getting shocked
right.
in, especially when all you have is the headphones and blocking everything else out. It just kind of flow one song into the next, and it was just before it was too mellow. I was like, oh, okay, I got a little bit of pick me up, and even not knowing the words, it still felt like by the end of some of the upbeat songs that mid tempo that I could actually sing the hook or the chorus. So yeah, I could feel that. Yeah, you were thinking of the listener. You definitely could feel it on this end.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and when I asked you, about being by your instrument, so just for the novice person who's not a musician, and I think you
Mhm.
mentioned it. You said, "Oh, can we call it? We call it keys."
Yes.
Yeah, and it's a Roland that you primarily play.
Yeah, so this is the Roland that I'm using is what I use to when I go out. For instance, I took this out last night at my show, but it's also I did use it for a bit of production on the album as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's my go-to keyboard right now, but my I want to say most prized possession, but the keyboard that I just love out the most is the Rhodes piano, but it's upstairs. I did some shoots with it, and I didn't have the energy to bring it back downstairs.
No,
I think
so
it's heavy.
and and you know what? So I hear these terms following music, especially reading liner notes, and you say, oh, this is was used on this song, that song. So the Rhodes, I guess it kind of gives you more of that vintage sound, right? It's like electric piano,
Absolutely.
basically.
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay,
that's exactly what it is. Yes.
electric piano. Okay,
Mhm.
and then the Roland is going to give you more of the synth and.
Right. So the Roland is more of an all-purpose. So it can be the Rhodes if it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
It has some Rhodes sounds. It has the Rhodes sounds in it. But it also can be a bass. It's a good bass synth. It can be strings. As a matter of fact, it's the strings that you hear on My Last Love. It's the strings you hear on Candlelight. Um,
Mm.
it's the piano that you hear on Candlelight. So it's a multi-purpose, all-in-one, if you will, type keyboard, and very, very, useful. Um, and like I said, I take it out with me. But it's I would say 25% of the production on the album was done from this keyboard.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and I did see, I saw the post earlier today about you being out last night. So that was actually, I wanted to even cover two things. Number one, it's got to be a good feeling. I can see the smiles, like getting that feedback and interaction from fans and listeners. But the other thing is, you got to see Stevie on this tour. How was that experience?
Oh my, yes, the Sing Your Song, Can We Fix Our Nation's Broken Heart tour. Very, I mean, I think this is my 10th, ninth or 10th time seeing Stevie, and just phenomenal. I loved, I mean, without saying, I mean, if, to know me is to know me that, Stevie Wonder is, the reason I even do what I do. So for me to see a show, I want to see deeper cuts. I want to see the songs that he never performed. Sometimes he'll pull them out. We always, he'll always do the Sir Dukes and I Wishes, but I wanted to see him, go in his bag and to do the deep album cuts. But he kept it, pretty tame, but always a pleasure. Always a
Mm.
pleasure. Always inspired. Um, because his music transcends generations and racial barriers. And I mean, you just saw, even standing in the line, I was inspired to get into the venue because they were just all walks of life, young, old. And these tickets, are by no means, cheap.
Right.
So you're wanting to see this, you're wanting to be there. And it's what I hope to do with my music, to inspire, so entertain and inspire as well. And Stevie, I would say Earth, Wind, and Fire, of course, Michael Jackson. They've all done that for me, and
Yeah,
so
it's
I want to
funny.
pass that baton on. Yes.
Since we talked about getting together a couple days ago on a social media, he had to be a younger cat just by the statement, but he said, and people want to do clickbait type of stuff, but I had to engage where he said, "Can you name a white version of Stevie Wonder?" And you had black and white people were like, "Well, no." It's just like when we want to listen to Stevie, we listen to Stevie, but it was like it made me kind of think, and just in forming a response to it, it was just kind of like it's like you said, he transcends so many different things musically, culturally, that he really is one of one. Like I know everybody is unique, and I would say maybe without having a lot of knowledge about international artists, like I'm sure other continents has their version of that. But as far as the Western world, yeah, there's no just the fact that he started off so young and is still going, and then
Yeah.
there's so many different sounds that he's produced, and then crossing all of it, there is no like point where you say, "Oh, this is where Stevie crossed over." He was already his music was always universal. So yeah, it's hard to ever think that black, white, brown doesn't matter. It's just there's only one
Yeah.
Stevie. You can't really have that
It,
that conversation about him.
exactly. It's funny you mentioned that because I'm a in addition to Stevie, I'm a huge Jackson 5 fan, and it was as you know, Jackson 5 started out with Motown,
Hmm.
and they made their transition from Motown to Epic Records. And before they left Motown, I think there was a kind of a back and forth struggle with Barry and the Jacksons because Germaine was married to Hazel, and so bottom line, it got to a point where Barry was like, we can have another Jackson 5. I can make another, five guys, and they can be the new Jackson 5. Um, I mean, of course, the real fans would know, but I'm bringing Stevie into this because you can't make another Stevie. You know, if Stevie if he left and went to another record, you're not gonna find lightning's not gonna strike twice.
Hmm.
You're not gonna capture lightning in a bottle two times like that. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah, I just like that comparison to what you were saying because um, and even the Jackson Five. I mean, you couldn't really replace. Well, the Silvers were what they were, but um, if you knew the Jacksons, then the Jacksons will always be the Jacksons. But I said Stevie because the way he plays the harmonica and just his being.
Hmm.
If Stevie walked into your local grocery store, you're not going to mistake him for anybody else.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and you're right. It's like as artists come along and mimic, was it Tyrese in a Coca-Cola commercial? It's like, oh, okay, that's cute. So you can kind of get away with it for a song or two. But as
Yeah.
far as a career, carbon copy, because yeah, you're right. Like, um, growing up, like 100% Jackson's Five, I didn't really catch on with the Silvers until maybe a little bit later. Same thing with the Osmonds. Like going back and listening to the Osmonds, it was like, oh, okay, some of their songs, and some of the harmonies, and you could kind of hear this is a nice carbon copy, to a certain extent, but you really
Right.
got a chance to see. It's almost like you're kind of grateful that they left Motown. You got a chance to see them kind of flourish and hear different sounds from them, like the Philly
Oh
sound.
yeah.
Like I love that sound when they were with Philly.
Oh, with Gamble and Huff for sure. For
Those
sure.
strings and yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, show you the way to go. Good time. Enjoy yourself.
Hmm.
Oh, sometimes I think things have you have to sever some ties in order to grow and find to mature and to get to the next level. Um, it's like I've seen a lot of kids go to school and when they graduate, they're just crying because they don't want to leave. They don't. This is familiar. They've made relationships with folks, but in order for this is the end. This is kind of like this is it. You need to graduate to the next level, and I think Gamble and Huff for the Jacksons was, you know, perfect.
Hmm. Have you, and thinking about like Motown kind of being that true to form hit factory, like a conveyor
Mhm.
belt just spitting things out. Um,
Right.
if if you had that opportunity, like present day, to kind of be in that situation, like, would you take it? Would you give up the freedom that you have now to?
Hmm. You know, it. I think I would jump as of late. I think I would, because it. I mean, I even say it in one of the songs on the album. Um, though I know things change, I want them to stay the same because I'm comfortable with the pain that I know, and so change is good. A lot of I like what I like to eat. I remember you and I discussing that in our last talk about the foods that you like or whatever. But um, you owe it to yourself. And sometimes you take a greater risk by not changing, by not going. And so they could have stayed. Just going back to the Jacksons, they could have stayed with Motown, but I mean, look what happened. I'm sure that even Barry Gordy himself, especially at the Motown 25,
Mm,
that was a launch pad for Michael, and for him to sit in the audience and be like, you know what, we could have had that on our roster. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I think I would. Change is necessary.
yeah,
Scary, but necessary.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate what you do. Um, and it's something I'm going to mention to the audience. Like, okay, as an artist, a fine follow on social media, touching in with everybody on Tuesday, um, kind of giving some attention, not just being on social media and like just, hey, I got something, just promoting. It's like kind of like stop and just say, hey, let me just check in with you. How has that been? How was your experience overall been with social media, promoting the music and talking with fans?
Very, very positive. Very positive because where I look at where I started, and a lot of the people have been with me for a few years, and I've had the pleasure of actually meeting some folks that have actually followed me to the point they've been in actual music videos with me. They're a part of um, the writing and music process, and just my cheering section, because it's more than, to me, it's more than social media now. It's more of a, like a real friendship, real relationship. I've met families, they, met my family, and it's just, I've gained, I would say, friends, really, as opposed to, just followers, because even with the Touch Base Tuesdays, it's me checking in, like you say. I mean, what I do. I mean, I make music, and I can, promote it and put the videos and songs out there. But, sometimes, I like having conversations about music, or conversations about life. There are a lot of people that pour into me. And so overall, my uh, time on social media, and I started, I want to say, in 2017 is when I really joined, say, Instagram, and so on Facebook a few years earlier than that. But really full fledged with the music, I would say 2017, 2018, and some folks drop off, and
Hmm.
life happens. You're going to see that, but for the most part, it's just been, great and positive, and I would say it's because of them that I'm here, where I am now.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. And I'm learning that too about, like you said, some drop off. It's like you said, life happens. Sometimes it's not even personal. It's not about you. It's just,
Yeah,
social media may not be their thing anymore, or they're not listening to music. It's just you have
yeah,
different interests. So it's like, okay, we had our time together. Maybe we'll meet again, maybe not, but it's okay. That's what I'm learning.
yeah.
Like, just let things flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you mentioned it, like I always do is, I mean, sometimes, if I just haven't seen you, and I'm just assuming that you're living life,
Yeah.
and then we're all, whatever it is, social media is a place where you kind of hang out, and then you get back to reality. And sometimes your reality is like, I don't have time to log in today, or I don't have time to post. I don't communicate as much as I used, 'cause I'm just busy, and so I had to take all of that into consideration. And so, pray the best for everyone. And if it is meant, like you mentioned, like if it's meant for us to kind of circle back and catch up, then it'll happen. But I just kind of let it be, and pray the best for everyone.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Now, the one thing too, listening to the music, I did pick up um, the strings when you mentioned it. Okay, you have the different sounds that can come from the keyboard. So I heard the strings, and when you're layering, I guess you must be going through the track dozens of times. If you're the if you're writing the music, you're writing the lyrics, you have the whole vision. So you're going over, if you're putting on your producer hat, that's the point where you're trying to decide how much goes in to the song, how much you're pulling back. Are you doing that yourself as well? Kind of producing
Yes,
it?
yes, all the production is done here, and so, yeah, to the T, that's what it is. So, um, I want to get as many, because I want the listener to have an experience. Um, I could have everything, or every instrument from beginning to end in the song, but if I'm not letting it drop out to give the listener a chance to breathe, and a chance to just listen to, and maybe not even in both speakers all the time. Sometimes you may hear something in your right ear, or I got that from Stevie too, where it's like I'm hearing something that's tucked in the back, and it's like, how did he weave that in? I want the listener to have that same experience. I want you to be able to listen, of course, to the lyrics, but musically let the music take you somewhere. And part of in doing that is layering instruments, and so sometimes less is more. So
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
it may just be the keys in the front, and then, as we build the track, I'm adding in the bass. The drums come in, or the drums may drop out for a little bit, and it adds to the overall effect.
Hmm. Can you give me example, like if you're playing anything on the keys, something that, I guess, like something that's opposite, like a happy sound and a sad sound?
Okay, so a happy sound. Um, it sounds really mellow, and you know, it's like a major seven. It's think major, just on in essence, the C major. Try piano. This is a major, but when you think like sad,
Wow.
you're using the violence. It's a violence. Depends on your thinking. You're kind of meditating, like kind of
Hey,
something may happen.
I'm
So
thinking
that
like, as soon as you hit that, I'm thinking a Lionel Richie music video. Like, I don't, you could pick
I was
which one.
thinking hello.
Yeah, I saw the video in my head. The first two notes, I'm like, that is Lionel Richie. That's that's
Yeah,
that's
and
beautiful. That's what music does for us, though. That's what I'm trying to tell people. I think that music is everywhere, but not everywhere anymore. Like we have access to all of it now so easily, and I think it's funny. Like people that I talk with the most are like music heads. They're either make music, or they're someone like a DJ producer, or they're just music heads
yeah,
and geeks and nerds. Once I get outside that circle, people are like, "Well, yeah, I got iTunes, I got Spotify, whatever like that," and they may listen
yeah.
to it, but this right here is the magic of knowing that here on the spot and letting everybody know that's listening that we didn't talk about this ahead of time, that right off the bat you could give me a happy and a sad note. That's a beautiful thing that it can really, these vibrations can, evoke emotion for us.
Oh, absolutely. And I did it on purpose. I had a family event, and we were honoring someone, and they asked me to bring my keyboard, and it was going to be a part of just doing some music, just whatever. And so um, the son was talking to his father, and so I had my keyboard. I think it was his father's birthday, and he said, "Dad, I wanted you to know, you've always been my hero," and very serious moment. And I wasn't not being serious with him, but I just started to. Dad, I want you to know. And then all of a sudden, the son was like, "Bro, you got to stop doing that. I'm getting ready to cry." Like,
Yep. Yep. And it's hard too as a man. Like I don't mind crying, but don't pull it out of me because I ain't gonna be able to stop. Like,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so that's when I learned that music is a very um powerful tool. It can be a part of your healing process. I mean, think about the people that go to the gym and listen to music to work out. I mean, it can amplify, it can get you pumped up or whatever the case may be. Definitely, if you wanted to party, of course, going to church. Music is really the soundtrack to everyone's life to a certain degree.
yeah,
The
even
first
if they
time you
don't know
fell
it.
in love, exactly. It's I always make this comparison if you're familiar with the Blondie. I think it's a comic. Um,
Hmm.
Blondie used to be in the Washington Post, or maybe still is. But in every little scene in the comic, Daisy the dog is laying around somewhere, is doing something. And I like that's how music is wherever
Yeah,
you are. Your first breakup, your first crush. There's a song as soon as you hear it, it takes you back to 1984, whatever. And so um, it just does that. It may have gotten you through, or just a time, very high time in your life. Music has always been there, and it's just something I just took not notice of and just really love, um, and I just gravitated to it.
yeah, yeah. I love the detail. Like I can tell you when I listened to the album, it gave me some insight into who you are. You could tell me if I'm right because you mentioned about faith. When I heard, I didn't even know what the track was, and I just heard you when you used the word loosed, and I was like, wait a minute, we don't talk like that anymore. That sounds like
Ah,
scripture, and it's kind of cool. Like we, using lyrics, kind of elevating some our vocabulary. You know what I mean? Like that was, is it no Unloose Your Love? Is that the name of the song?
Unleash Your Love,
Yeah,
yes.
unloose your love. When I heard unloose, I'm like, okay, that's not a word we use every day. Like it immediately took me to, okay, that's like Old Testament, but
Yeah.
it makes you stop and pay attention. You know what I mean? It's not just vanilla. And the other one, I don't know if it's this one or did you have a single called Reciprocity?
The single is Reciprocity. Yeah.
same thing. I'm like, okay, Lauryn Hill's the only one that I've heard use
Yes,
reciprocity in a major
I'm.
way.
Yes, sir. I'm so glad that you and that's where I think I as soon as I said that word, I'm like, she's the only other person that I've heard use that.
Yeah.
And yeah. I just let the music sometimes dictate what the song is going to be about. And reciprocity, that was like the first like word I uttered.
Mm.
Just trying to fill it out. I didn't even know what the song was going to be about, but it just fit. Reciprocity. I just that was the first word. Just had the rhythm track and just jumped out.
That's
And
beautiful.
so
Yeah. And it
yeah,
kind of sounds like that because it's like the word carries enough weight where you don't really need anything else. Like, okay, you hear it and you just, as you repeat it, I'm just thinking about what it means and the way you're singing it means, all right, I need you to give me something back. Like,
yeah,
that's, that's
exactly.
lovely.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, 50-50. I mean, that's what we would want out of all of our relationships, not just your romantic relationship, but if we're boys or brothers or, family members, co-workers, you want that same level of energy brought to you that you give for others.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that as, I think as society, as we get more put on our plates, like music has to be a way of like being able to escape. You know what I mean? Like I think we're kind of bombarded. Like there's 24 hours in a day. We sleep just a few hours. We're working, we're hustling, commuting. There's so much on our plate. I think for this coming year, I'm really preaching and kind of driving home the point of like you got to stop. And I guess like not just music, but the arts in general. Whether if it's not music, then sit down and read something, watch a movie, and not put the phone down, give the arts, give yourself some time to like let your mind wander and imagination. But music is a really great like starting point from that if you kind of start with music.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. From and I guess because it's the medium that I live in. I always want to look at it from a standpoint of not looking at music for its commercial, not for its, not for money at the end of the day, but it's just something that I love to do. It's the art form that I feel most expressive with. Now I love visual art as well. I paint, draw, um, but for me, music. I have the palettes or the paintbrushes or these keyboards, and it's um, my way of if I'm angry or if I'm pensive, if I'm happy, it's just my way of communicating with the world,
Hmm.
and just kind of living my life out through making the music. And sometimes it's not, for me, just like a lot of the music that other artists write. Now they're the vehicle that God you know gives us the vision to make, but sometimes it's for someone else. Sometimes a throwaway song for me is as a song that someone will come back to me and say, that you helped me through a rough period, a
Right.
rough time or whatever. And you know I heard someone say, sometimes God blesses you to bless someone else, you know and that's the gratifying moment for me. We talked about compensation earlier, but it's the world we live in. But you know it has to be a good feeling to something that you do, that you help someone, and something that you didn't even think, you may not even thought twice about, but it actually helped someone else.
Yeah, it didn't
For
cost you
me,
anything to
didn't
begin with.
cost you anything. You mean, so if I just went and I did that, and that did something for you, like wow,
Yeah.
and it's for me, it's just uh phenomenal because my first instrument was a coffee table, and it was my imagination um that led me here, because before I could play or I even had a keyboard to play, I pretended, as I mentioned in that post, that I was Stevie Wonder. And what would Stevie Wonder do on a if he couldn't go outside and play with his friends?
Yeah.
So I sat there, yeah.
The and that's actually something else I wanted to cover with you is if you had to give advice to parents or anybody, taking care of kids, we know that music instrument classes, instruments aren't in the schools, but they see their child is somewhat inclined toward the arts or playing. Like, is it a matter of, hey, let them kind of wander into a music store and find what it is they want to do? What do you think about classes? Like, what would be your direction for a parent or an adult that, sees their kid wanting to get into music?
Um, I would, they there's going to be a level of dedication to learning an instrument. Let them gravitate to, make it fun for them. Um, my family supported me doing music, but it was never a forced it on me and thrust me out there. It wasn't that? It was actually the other way around, where you know my punishment sometimes was to not listen to music. But let them find their way. They when they find their way, and then once you see, okay, you want to play the bass, um, or you want to sing, um, it's one thing to support them. Of course, class is very good. The rudiments. You don't want to neglect the rudiments, so that's definitely key. But do it with a sense of, for instance, who is it that you like to listen to? Who is it that and find out what their story is. They have, nine times out of 10, they saw someone else, say, play the bass or the guitar.
Mhm.
And, you know, when we used to see them on TV, we just thought that they just automatically were rocking out, all of these things. But they had a story as well. So identifying what they love to do and kind of making it, um, helping them along with learning. Okay, the person that you listen to on the radio. And let's just say Beyonce. Just as an example. You know, she had to practice, and she took classes, and she did this. And if this is what you want to do, you know, I don't think they're forcing them. I think that's going to be counterproductive, because then it's like, but kids are kind of flighty and fickle. They like one thing one day, and the next day. So just let them, you know, gravitate to it themselves, and before you know it, and they feel free enough, you may have something on your hands there, and just let it evolve.
Yeah.
Let it evolve with guidance.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important because you hear so many adults say, "Oh, I wish I, learned an instrument, or I wish I, had done this, or I wish I would have kept up with it." But because it was presented in the wrong way or was forced on them as a kid, like you said, they rebel against it, and
Yeah,
then once you got a family and responsibilities, like, "Oh man, I wish I could sit down and and take piano lessons." Like you would love to do it now, but yeah,
yeah,
I think that's great advice.
yeah.
The As you move forward with projects, are you continuing to just, like, as ideas come to you, just go through that process of, hey, releasing a single, releasing an album, and look for those opportunities, like you said, to tour, let those things come to you. But in the meantime, it's just living the mission of getting that music out there.
Yeah, for me, in terms of, I am in the studio writing. I was today actually kind of arranging a new track. We still have a lot from the album that I wanted to present in terms of content and videos. So that's gonna probably take us into, late spring, early summer, before it's time to present something new. But um, yeah, I want to explore as much as I can with the album. But yeah, I'm always creating, and it's for me, the creating and just kind of sitting back and letting it be its own being. When you can get to that point where you've created something, and now you're not thinking about, oh, how many times did I take to redo do that line, and it's it's the artistic statement that you wanted. That's the goal. Now after that, and once you put it out there and promoting the single and social media streams and all of that, that's something different. But you know, it's um it's just for me the creating process. So I sat here and you know I had three chords, which became "You're All Mine" on the album, and it's like wow, you know, we did something with that. It became because when you're creating and when you're in the midst of creating a song, it's like you ever looked at a photo or a painting rather, and it's like it doesn't look too detailed until you step back.
Yeah,
Once you step back and you see it as a whole, and it's like, oh wow. So I want to have a lot more of those moments, and I just love doing that. So I'm always creating, always writing, and I'm probably looking at uh, say April,
okay,
May, but could be sooner just because we're like I said, there's some songs that didn't make the album that we could finish up and but always creating.
yeah,
And so yeah, just letting it flow. But the social media part is that's a day-to-day job, always I'm vying for attention from millions of people. So, we gotta
got to
be out
stay
there.
out there. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm sure you've thought about this. A lot of people in my circle are collecting vinyl, and there's just no easy way to do it for artists. I mean, has that something that's crossed your mind about putting some music on wax?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of that material now was on CD,
Hmm.
just because of the, it's, you know, economically more sound for me to do that. But I would love to, and still plan to, is for the albums definitely to get those on vinyl. Um, just because you mentioned it before about someone mentioning they stream, but I think you and I are from the era where you would go to the record store and you would take the shrink wrap off of the even the cassette or the CD, definitely the vinyl, and that's actually a part of the listening experience. To open it up, to see the cover art, to see the liner notes, to see the credits and who did what, then have that sonic, or while at the same time having that sonic experience, listening from beginning to end. That's really the ride that I'm hoping that people take with my music as they did with in the past, where you would listen to an Earth Wind and Fire album and see all of the the hieroglyphics or whatever, or
Pyramids
all
and
that
yeah,
type of pyramids and
spaceships.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that I'm like, because that's what the whole statement is about. It wasn't it wasn't to me. It wasn't meant to just be something that you listen and it's at one time it's like it's so cold now because you don't even see the cover or you don't even see you know you're getting a glimpse. You hear it. It sounds good, but to have that whole experience, to hold something in your hands, tangible like a vinyl. Oh, definitely. I want to have that experience with my folks.
And the CD works too, because I'm I have that memory, even when I'm streaming, of all the CDs and albums that I physically bought over the years. And
Mhm.
immediately it comes back to me. I remember what store I was at where I bought it. I remember, like you said, cracking it open, listening to it. Because at the time, unless you already knew the artist and the song, a lot of time, if you were just shopping, you were buying based on the artwork on the cover of the CD. You never heard it, until we
Exactly.
got those listening stations and stuff like that. Before then, it was like, oh, this looks cool. So you plop down $7, $8 unheard, get it home, and that does kind of affect whether you like it's one thing for you to stream music that you didn't pay for. You just gave Apple or Spotify $10 for the month. You listen to an artist song, you listen for 30 seconds, oh that's trash, and then hit next. It's a different thing when you put down your cash first, and this is all you got is these 8 or 9 tracks, and it's like now
Yes,
you hear the music. Your opinion is a little different because you've already invested into it.
exactly. Thus the reason why I don't neglect the cover art because like you said, you have may never heard of Desmond Parson before, but you know, um, similar to all of the '70s and '80s records, where like say Parliament Funkadelic or particularly like the Ohio players that always had like a woman on the front cover, and
Hmm.
it's like you may have never heard like what. Why are they posing like that? What's this about? You're curious just off of the visual that you get.
Yeah.
So what based on what I'm seeing, I'm curious to know what sound is this? How do they relate this cover art to the sound? Thus, I'm like, okay, so if I can't get your attention, with my music, right away, maybe visually, you know. So I did everything from having I think I had someone for my sideline do like an anime type of impression of me, and all for just for shock purposes. Like I wanted you to like, what is this about? You know, um, and I paid hundreds of dollars to have. I believe it was for the Like in November album cover, because I explained to the artist what I wanted. Just I wanted to do shock value for catch someone's eye. Anything that I could use to pull in the listener to see what this cover is about. I
That
could have
got
just
me.
did the standard R&B
That got
thing.
me the last. In fact, so I found you on Instagram first, and then when I
Okay.
went and pulled it up and I saw, the multicolored, the leaves, it was just kind of like, all right. It says I see the word November. It felt like the title, so it was enough. Like so, as you described, as soon as you mentioned it, it's like the visual came right back to me. So yeah, it was worth it because the message got across.
Oh wow, thank you, bro. And that was the aim. The
Hmm.
aim was to and it also was an ode to all of the artists from the 70s, 60s, 70s that put work and thought into their cover art. We're making an artistic statement, and it's similar to they say how like an interview starts when you walk in the door, even before you sit down and speak with whomever. It's like that with the album too. The presentation,
Hmm.
the presentation of the cover art, and how does this correlate? I mean, you could have one picture in the front and then the number of songs on the back. You know, you're not really leaving anything. You're leaving a lot on the table. But if I were to present everything to you in a way that you know, even your eye, if I can catch your eye, and then now let's listen to the music. Oh, so that's how you correlate this to this, and this is what this means, or just the mood of the music itself lends to the cover art, and you can see kind of a relationship between the two. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah, yeah, and I like that. That as an artist, when I see that they've given attention to detail, but also given like subtle, like maybe Easter eggs. Like as you're talking about that, one of the ones that came to mind was Maxwell's and the barcode, and it was just kind of like, what is it doing there? I think the Tigalero album has the same thing. It has an ode to
Yes,
that with the barcode on the front, and it was like, is that a promo copy? But it stops you just enough to recognize that this is different than the other stuff. Pick me up, you know what I mean? So I love
yes,
that. So when an artist
yes,
invests in it, and that's kind of what you want, is that the artist is kind of meeting you halfway because we really are, like you said, vying for each other's attention, and it's kind of like if I can see that you've put that effort in, then it's like, okay, yeah, I can equally give you, my attention too to the art.
yes, yes. That I think to me that's what that's based off of, say, Stevie or Funkadelic. Another
Hmm.
Funkadelic, without question, Funkadelic is from Maggot Brain to One Nation Under a Groove. It's like the cover alone sold me,
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't even know, and I didn't even know the social political undertones of that music until I was older. I knew I liked what it sounded like, and I knew that Dr. Funkenstein, or the mothership, and all of this was just but just wow. And again, I'm just hoping that with my music, and it's a note to them as well. I want to bring you in, but it's also to pay homage to the predecessors.
yeah, yeah. It's nice, that nice balance. But the last thing I do want to cover, and it's kind of in the same realm, is between discography and mainly the streaming platforms. It Well, as an artist, when you're sending it out to distro and it gets categorized R&B, soul, who's putting that label on there as far as how is
Well,
it's categorized?
So I'm doing that when I upload to my distributor.
Okay.
Um, because the sound now I would like to say that I just make music,
Right.
and I would the goal is for my music to cross categorization and let it just be music that people love. Um, but just based off of the sounds, maybe the sounds that I use or um, the feel of the sound, you would think R&B, but I'll say R&B soul or soul music. But yeah, I would love to do you know all kinds of music, alternative music. But I'm just based in soul. I mean, I grew up off of Stevie, and so my sound, even when I try to, I carving out my own sound, but you're going to hear the influences. You're going to hear Michael in there. You're going to hear the Stevie. You may hear Prince or Maurice White. All these different, artists. But yeah, I put the label on there, but it's really for everyone.
Yeah, yeah, because I've always wondered, especially when I'm playing tracks, and as I'm listening to it, and I'll see the tag, I'm like, okay, well, this that ain't it. Like, this is different. Or I'll even, yeah, soul. Correct me if I'm wrong. Soul is more. It has that gospel bass, and soul is. It just seems like it's more influential. Like the singer, especially if it's vocals, you're going to get more power usually. Whereas R&B kind of lends. You can still have a soul background, but it seems like R&B is has a smoother feel to it. I know they're kind of like similar, but they're different, right? R&B and soul.
Yeah, they're similar and different, and it depends on what what era you're talking about because
Mm-hmm.
I went on Amazon and I looked up soul in their digital marketplace, and I'm there. It's the one place I'm on the same chart with Luther Vandross, and I see Mary J. Blige. You see Mary J. Blige and Desmond Parson. Like what? But um, you know, it's different now because what I think soul is. I think number one, soul is just being expressive. But when you think soul, you think maybe Aretha or Al Green, or if you're thinking more modern day, you may even think of I guess when you think of Jill Scott, that's more neo soul, but um, maybe Anthony Hamilton.
Yeah,
To me, that's what I would think soul is. But it depends on who. It's similar to those people that I think maybe it was Forbes that came out with the latest list of 50 top rappers or something like that, and it's like, why would you put this person over this person? And I think it all depends on who's creating these lists and who they're deciding should be in this category. But a lot of the times I don't see it. I just see who you vibe to, who you vibe to. But I'm thinking soul is more of those people that I mentioned.
yeah. I think it would be nice to see that it gets categorized more by the era or the sound, because like you now you see that maybe like I guess it's called soul revisionist. It's like somebody like Jalen Nganda. He's
Hmm.
that sounds like soul from the '60s, but he's making it now. Um,
Yes.
so and then like you mentioned hip hop and rap. I saw on Instagram. I forget who said it, but they were saying, why is it that Nas, if he puts something out now, he's got to compete with a teenager who's putting out music. Like, why can't it be just like rock? You have classic rock, you have alternative, you have soft rock,
Right.
contemporary. So why can't we have contemporary music and it's all the different genres? It's like, hey, if you're 40 and up, you're probably going to like this because that's really what it is. Like all of us of the same generation, we're all listening to the same country hip hop from our past. So I
Right.
think that at some point, like I know we at some point we got rid of the black charts because
Yeah.
it's still
Exactly.
kind of wild when I go back and I hear people say, "Wait, we did have some, it was like black charts, a black market, so we got away from that." So yeah, maybe at some point we'll progressively get more to the point like, hey, this is the sound for a particular area, regardless of who made it or who's listening to it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and I get that too with Dionne Warwick because I think she's answered that a lot, especially through her career when it's like, oh, wait a minute, your music is too white or it's not black enough. And she always said, well, it's pop music, or I just make it for everybody. It's not, music is
Exactly.
colorblind.
Yeah, exactly. I think we create these barriers. We create these divides, and I'm me myself on a good day. I listen to the Doobie Brothers. The next day, I could be listening to Wu Tang.
Hmm.
Um, I listen to Kenny Loggins. Because to me, music is music. I'm a big fan of. I don't know if you remember the Monkees.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the,
Watching the
they were
show
like
and
the big
everything.
kind of. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love them. I mean, they had hits too, and music is music.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I
and
think and you really get that past the hits. You're right. Like when you mentioned the Monkees, and when you start getting into deep cut Beach Boys, like all these different bands, like they're legendary for a reason. For a while, I was more of I still am like Rolling Stones over Beatles.
yeah,
But then when I kind of get into out past the top hits of the Beatles and just kind of listen to the album cuts, I'm like, oh, okay, now I kind of get why they are who they are. When you listen to the whole
yeah,
catalog.
exactly. I mean, I think and I'm using him as an example. Stevie pulled out that he thinks the Beatles have just as much soul. I mean, because at the end of the day, soul is being expressive. You know, and that's how I took it. I mean, I know that I guess down the road we decided, okay, D'Angelo, Erica Badu, Jill Scott. That's neo soul, and even they don't even like those categories. If I'm not,
Hmm.
I know that D'Angelo spoke out against it. That he doesn't want to be considered a neo soul artist. Just let it. I'm soul music.
Yeah.
I'm music, and so you know, I music is it's for everyone.
Hmm.
You
Yeah, I
know,
think Hall and Oates said the same thing about the Blue Eyed Soul. They're like, no, like,
exactly,
like don't do that to us. That's
exactly.
well, man, it's
And
been great.
it's like an actor. I'm sorry. I'm
No, go
sorry. Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
And I was just thinking, like, actors that are typecast. I mean,
Mm.
they're actors, but when you do a role so good, I guess you know, um, they always cast you as the bad guy now, or you're always the straight guy or the funny guy or whatever, and just let we just want to act. We just that was a role, and so similar to music, just let it be music that is digested, and if it makes you feel a certain way, then we reached our aim.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I tell you, um, listening to this album, it showed another side to your music. Like, not that any of the singles and EPs before this all sounded the same. They all had their different flavor, but it was a pleasant surprise to hear this from beginning to end. It was just kind of like this was a real throwback. Like it didn't sound like old music, but it had that flavor of, okay, I just got an album and I'm sitting in the front room and
Oh
I
wow.
was waiting to flip this, the album over here to the other side. So I'm looking forward to what I've been doing lately, especially now that this has like 16 tracks. I'll probably be playing two or three tracks here, just week by week, and kind of introducing this conversation along with the tracks. But
Oh wow.
yeah, I'm just kind of looking forward to what you got planned. Like I said, if you got videos, because I love that. That's the last thing I got to ask you. So when you're filming the videos, I don't know what your personality is. Is that tough for you? Because music is one thing. That's all audio, but to be
Yeah.
on camera singing, you're out in public. Is that fun or is that difficult for you filming your videos?
No, it's fun. It's very much fun.
Okay, good.
The last video we shot was for yesterday. That's the current single from the album. And I which made it fun was this was the first time. Usually, when someone sees you out and about creating a video, they leave you alone. Oh, he's working. This was not the case with yesterday. She as and so it was a challenge, but it was fun. So it made me. I saw her, kind of looking. She was asking questions, and uh, she was eating away at my time. I had batteries that had charged up, and so it was a challenge, but it was fun. I always like get the videos because it's obviously another way to introduce the song to folks. It's their visual. If they didn't see the album cover before or whatever, and they're seeing you for the first time. So yeah, it's an opportunity for them to see you, and so I always love it. I always love being expressive with the music. I love performing, so just another way of performing. Um, Learning a bit about. Well, sometimes it's a little based on the director because sometimes they don't want you to. For instance, we don't want you to sing and dance in the song. We just want you to be in the song and just sing it. A lot of
Plans,
times I gotta,
your song
yeah.
plans, like you're dancing, like that one stands out,
Oh
but
yeah,
that it fits the song, you know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like if you just hear the song without the video or any kind of visuals, it's like, all right, this is a bop. But then when I see the video, it's like, okay, now I get to see what your vision of what it is supposed to be. It's like, all right, get up and move around. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's
Always
dope.
love doing that.
Okay, well,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
So as always, I'll stay in touch online. Always love seeing what you're doing. Keep the Touch Base Tuesday, like I said, it's a nice touch. Keep doing that, and I'll be shouting it out, letting folks know, where to get the dope music.
Oh wow, greatly appreciate you in this conversation, bro. When when we have some more material coming out, you'll be one of the first people to know. Would love to
Hmm.
sit and get your take on it and chop it up with you again. And again, thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah. And then if I make it down, I tell artists this all the time. People I meet online, like, hey, if I make in your area, I will definitely hit you up. Just
Oh
would love to
please.
break bread, anything, toss back a drink or something like that. So we'll be in touch.
Oh, will do. Yeah, absolutely, bro. Let me know.
All right. So let me